Combat animations in video games can say a lot about a character. The way the character that you control moves and executes actions can be a great vehicle for putting your player in the character's shoes and revealing aspects of their personality that might not be able to be experienced as deeply as in other mediums. And this isn't specific to characters who use combat consistently in their stories. Video game developers and animators all have a lot to think about when developing their character animations. Timing, input, feeling, sound effects, action flow, facial expression, just about all the fundamentals of animation, all while trying to keep in mind consistent characterization. The Devil May Cry series is a master class at this, and being at the top of the character action genre, it's to be expected. In JRPGs, this can often be difficult though, unless you have a character with very specific power set like Noctis. Today I want to look at how, though visually very similar, and even using the exact same weapon, Zack and Cloud exhibit very different personalities with how they use it, and how we can determine things about them just from how they are personalized in animation. There will be spoilers for Final Fantasy VII, all of it, starting now, so that's your warning. We're going to start with Zack for now. Zack is a likable guy. He's strong, charismatic, empathetic, and kind to just about everyone he meets, the embodiment of a real hero. He's a proud and well-trained soldier. It's no stretch to think that he and Cloud came from a very similar childhood, but with some key differences. They both lived in a small town in the middle of nowhere. While Cloud never had a father and was raised by Claudia alone, Zack had two loving parents who gave him the confidence to pursue his dreams and believe in himself. They both were affected at a very young age by global propaganda and were inspired to join the problematic, to say the least, soldier program, to become heroes like the great Sephiroth. Zack, as far as we can tell, had a natural physical advantage, taking the soldier exam and the Mako experiments thereafter with little to no real negative side effects. By all means, he's the ideal soldier, which we can see and feel if we take a glance at his combat in Crisis Core. For this video, I'll be using some footage from the PSP Crisis Core and the Reunion remaster, as I think both have value. Due to the PSP's limitations and decisions made by combat directors, Crisis Core's gameplay is clunky, to say the least. But putting aside how it feels to play for a moment, let's look at Zack's animations in a bubble. He starts out as a young second-class soldier with a standard-issue sword. From the very opening of the game, we see that he is excited to perform his job and fight. He stands tall and confident in his skills. Now let's see him in action in gameplay. We can see that his swings are textbook. Strong, straight slashes with good follow-through, keeping form with his training, even if it's a little bland to look at. His special moves, though, allow for a little bit more of his personal flair to show through. Strong spinning attacks or focused hard vertical slashes when he needs to. Zack has his one-liners and combat phrases that all seem to imply he's still having fun, or at least trying to keep a light attitude. He gauges his enemies and uses an appropriate level of strength and speed to dispatch them. Of course, much of this is also due to the gameplay factor and the systems within the game. But if we take a look at what little new footage we have of Reunion with all of its changes and animation improvements, we can see that the intent is still kept intact. His moves, although they connect better and are more flashy and lively, still speak to how he carries himself in combat. His swings are still precise, although take a more diagonal approach, possibly to complement the new camera and for hitting multiple enemies at once with your basic combo. When Zack later inherits the Buster Sword from his reserved by-the-book mentor Angeal, he takes great care to keep the blade in good shape, for emotional and story reasons. He swings this large hunk of iron surprisingly accurately, keeping his deliberate strikes even though he has to spin his whole body for the momentum of the swing. He is still in control. This speaks so much to Zack's character, a man whose world is essentially coming undone, losing his childlike innocence and preconceived notions about Shinra, Wutai, and even his mentors and co-workers. He's a guy who's trying to desperately keep everything under control, relying on his sense of justice and his pride and honor as a warrior and a soldier to guide him to make the right choices. He's an all-around good boy. We all know it. Now, let's contrast that with Cloud in Remake. Cloud is a character with lots of literally trapped emotional baggage. He doesn't know who he is, and even when he did, he was a nervous kid, a volunteer child soldier with low self-esteem, who just wanted to be seen, recognized, noticed. He fails the soldier exam and is crushed. He was weak and had little confidence in himself to make his dreams come true. After spending a few depressed years as a Shinra grunt, finding a mentor and friend in Zack, who embodied everything Cloud wished he was. After the events of the Nibelheim incident and Hojo's Sephiroth clone experiments, he's left in a catatonic state for 2 years as Zack sacrifices everything to save him, his last, selfless heroic act. Zack passes the Buster Sword onto him, just as he wakes from his comatose state, this compacted trauma affecting his very sense of self. Taking on Zack's legacy rewrites Cloud's fragile mind with essentially this prime directive: to become what we would have been together. Long story short, Cloud from here on perceives himself as a super ex-soldier mercenary who'll take on any job if the pay is right. A badass, motorcycle riding, sword swinging, not interested, hard-boiled cool guy. And he carries himself as such, or tries to at least. See, Cloud's facade often slips as he has the mental maturity of a 16-year-old. He acts like what he would have seen a protagonist act like in an 80s action movie. And goddammit, even if he sucks at selling it, it is cool. People often say that he's modeled himself after Zack, and I see that a little bit, but I think it's more accurate to say that he took Zack's confidence and nonchalant attitude and combined it with how he must have imagined himself alongside Zack as a mercenary duo. You know, the bad cop to Zack's good cop type thing. I can totally see another universe in which they make a pretty sweet team. Zack being the charismatic foil to Cloud's pragmatic and reserved demeanor. Cloud will stand like Zack and copy some of his mannerism when forced to interact with other people. But most of the time when he's alone, he stays quiet and cold, sulking in his solitude. When put in an uncomfortable situation, especially with women, he reverts to being 16 again. The cool guy one-liners are gone, and he's just left with awkward feelings of an adolescent boy in a man's body. You can tell that he doesn't think about the past unless confronted with it, to damaging effect. He doesn't even really think about the future all that much either. He's a man stuck in his own present, and pushing too far in either direction will destabilize him. He's an imposter of himself, and this persona he puts up is interesting to see how he follows through with it. Let's look at his combat. When Cloud fights in Final Fantasy VII Remake, he goes all in. On any enemy, he attacks with hard, crunchy swings that connect logically with Newton's classical mechanics, being carried by the momentum of the massive weight of the sword. The sword is not something he was trained for. In fact, I'm willing to bet, besides this, the bombing mission is the first time he's actually had to fight with a sword at all. The Buster Sword seems to be guiding him. His swings are sloppy and he often overestimates the strength needed for one, causing him to slam the sword on every surface and door frame that he can find. Sorry, Angeal. He has a close personal connection to the sword through Zack, but not the respect and honor for its legacy because he doesn't know it. He beats this thing to hell, but it still holds strong. The way Cloud swings and moves his whole body seems to be following the natural trajectory of the swing, placing each move in a bit of an awkward connection for the next swing in the combo. We can see him have to self-correct and wrangle it back to center for a large chop or returning to neutral. Cloud is plenty strong enough to wield this beast, unlike a normal person, but he also has had zero training. His fighting style is all improvisation. It's messy and personal and has a real rough energy to it, which makes for really engaging combat. His special ATB attacks seem to consist of stuff like, "I'ma do a flip and chop this bitch in half," or just a charging stinger that goes way too far. In Punisher mode, he keeps the sword in one hand and wildly vaults and swings it lightning fast but with little accuracy. He's relying on his strength and just doing things that his kid mind thinks looks cool. Even in cutscenes, it seems like everything he does is just seat of his pants quick thinking. He most definitely is always trying to flex and be the coolest guy in the room. He fights like a kid who watched Advent Children and picked up a huge unwieldy branch to play with. I think Cloud has a lot of personality shown in his combat, and the fact that the developers managed to convey all of that while keeping the combat endlessly fun is an incredible feat. With the return of Zack, which I will talk about in depth in another video, it's fun to imagine how a playable Zack may fare in Rebirth and beyond. Reunion is a remaster of a PSP game, so some things we'll just have to accept as not up to today's standards. But in Rebirth, we could see more of Zack's personality come out and differentiate him from Cloud through combat. I'm not a huge fan of the idea that we have two of basically the same looking guy in our party at once. I think visually that'll get kind of cluttery and it's just not great. But maybe through unique character animation they can sell them as different enough. Likewise, I don't want to play as Zack somewhere else away from the party, occasionally like a Laguna mission, and have their movesets be identical with the Buster Sword. That would be a huge missed opportunity. But I have enough faith in this team to deliver on these characters, from their animations and dialogue, to their mannerisms and relationships to each other. Zack and Cloud are a great example of how game developers can really explore complicated characters' personality through gameplay, and even just in animations themselves. It's not easy to make a fun and engaging combat system when your main combo consists mostly of one button, but it's even harder to do that and deliver so much information on a character in every action. Let me know if you like this video and if I should make more combat animation analysis videos. Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks.